and that's really troubling. I have a hard time thinking that Travis Homer can replace Rashad Penny. I think Marshawn Lynch will be more effective with another week of practice and knocking some rust off of his legs and getting his feet under him a little bit. But without that strong rushing attack, I think you have to depend on the passing game, which, like I said, was not great last time and didn't really match up great against the Eagles defense. How do you think the Eagles are going to approach this game?
Definitely try to take away the run early. That's been basically the stance of this team, since Jim Schwartz took over as defensive coordinator. We ended the season ranked number 3 against the run. So that at least gives me some hope that we can contain the run game. Of course, my biggest issue is your quarterback. And it's not so much the designed runs, it's the scrambles he will do on pass plays when things break down. And I've often said, because, even when we lost to the Cowboys, their game plan to come in and try to run against us, and I get it, they had Ezekiel Elliott, was probably a boneheaded idea, especially when they had us outmanned, wide receivers on corners. Darby and Mills were the ones being victimized. But since they've gone down, Jones and Douglas have played adequately well to where I'm comfortable enough to say that, I'm not going to say that we can take away the wide receivers, but maybe we can limit the design passes or at least stick with the wide receivers in man coverage long enough for pressure to get to Russell Wilson. And, your offensive line has gotten better from last year to this year, because last year it looked like on pass plays, every other pass play was a jailbreak for the defensive line to kill your quarterback. And, this year they're actually standing up and, stoning off some of that pressure and giving him time to throw the ball. I've seen him make more throws from the pocket comfortably this season as opposed to last year. Of course, everything starts with our defensive line: Fletcher Cox, Tim Jernigan, Vinnie Curry, Derek Barnett, Brandon Graham. Those guys have to win their matchups, because if they can't get home on straight 4-man rush, that's not going to bode well for the back seven defending the pass. And that's pretty much the way you beat this Eagles team is you spread them out, you get all these DBs on the field, you find your matchup, and you just abuse it for the entire game.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to be optimistic, but I think that this is a terrible situation for the offensive line, because they're all so beat up. And, the way Russ plays, he's going to be asking them to hold on to blocks for a lot longer than a normal quarterback typically will when he makes magic in the backfield. And if they're going to succeed on offense, he's going to have to do it this week more than basically any other week. The only other shining bright spot I have is that George Fant, the part-time backup tight end / backup left tackle, played really well last week against a very good defense. And honestly, he held it pretty well against Joey Bosa. So I think, while he'll be at a disadvantage and he'll be playing players better than him who are going to win more often than he does probably, I don't think he'll be completely embarrassed. And I don't think he's going to get, slaughtered on every single snap. I think that he'll hold his own. Any X factors, anything you think that can have a big impact on this game that maybe we're not accounting for yet?
Other than health, as far as who plays, like I mentioned, the one thing as far as when the Eagles have the ball on offense is to keep an eye out on the right side of the line situation with Lane Johnson's health. I think that's going to dictate a lot. Defensively, and this boils down to another injury, is Jalen Mills. And this is what's sad, is that even though Jalen Mills is the veteran, I trust Douglas and Jones more than I trust Mills. And if Mills is healthy, I hope he's not starting. Maybe he's just a rotational player in there based on, scheme or design of what we're trying to do on defense, maybe a down and distance situation type thing. But Jalen Mills can pretty much be abused in a phone booth. And it's sad that this is a starting corner, and it looks like, if teams find him, they pick on him all day.
Yeah, and I think for the Seahawks, coaching decision-making is going to be a big issue this game. I expect this to be a fairly tight game. And I think that there's going to be a lot of those hard, going for it on 4th and 1 from your own, from the opponent's 38-yard sort of decision-making. And the Seahawks, we're at a point now where there's enough data in the NFL that we know that honestly going for it on 4th and less than a full 1, the odds of you making it is 80%. It's astronomically high that you convert those in the NFL. And so, and even if you don't make it, if you're in that far into opponent territory, the odds of them scoring if you turn it over are relatively low. And so the point differential, it's not hard math. but the Seahawks are the second worst team in the NFL at making correct fourth down decisions. They have a really bad tendency to punt when they shouldn't, and then when they finally decide to go for it, do it in the worst possible situations. And so that's come back to bite them a few times this year. I saw somebody comment on Twitter, and I thought this was really accurate, that the Pete Carroll experience is effectively that your team's floor, like the minimum for how well they perform, is very high. But he also has a negative impact on the ceiling because of how conservative the play plan can be and some of the play calling can be. And I think that's spot on. And I just worry that in a game between two teams that I think match up pretty well and is going to come down to just those certain spots, he just has a tendency to simply choose wrong. And so I think if the Seahawks do lose, I think there's a very good chance that we're going to find at least one or two of those decisions.
Definitely. And you're not the only one who questions decision making. And for my coaching staff, my issue is maintaining balance. Like you said, these teams probably more evenly matched than the records would indicate. The last game was 17-9. I expect this game to be a little bit closer than that. I still don't expect the team that wins to score more than 24 points.
So what is your score prediction then? I think we're of a similar mind. I think it'll be close. I think slightly higher scoring than last time, but not terribly more than last time. What do you think those going to be the final score?
I wouldn't be shocked by either team winning this game, but something in my gut tells me that just based on the injuries that, these things are finally going to catch up to us, and this is probably the game where it happens. So I'm looking at something like 2017, 2018 in favor of Seattle.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar to that. I think the difference in this game is going to be the fact that Russell Wilson has that ability to pull a rabbit out of a hat. After looking like they're not going to do anything all game, just suddenly astonish with something incredible, which has become a weirdly predictable phenomenon, which I'm a fan of the stupidest team. But as a result, I'm taking the Seahawks, I think 21-17, those being nice round football numbers. I think it'll be a Seahawks victory. I think it'll be close. I think it'll probably come down to, a late score in the fourth quarter to cause that last little bit of separation. If we have to depend on one team to make a little bit more magic, I got to go with Danger Russ Wilson on this one.
Understood. I mean, look, late game heroics is part of his DNA at this point. We've all seen it happen, so it wouldn't shock me in the least.
All right, well, there we go. James, best of luck. Hopefully whoever wins, if nothing else, we can agree will escape with no further injuries, because pretty soon the injured version of the team will be a better team than the actual on-the-field healthy version of both of these teams. And that's
absolutely.
All right, there we go. Toss it back to Pod. Whoever he's got queued next. Wildcard Weekend. Go Hawks.
For me, this game, I can see it being very much a replica of the 1965 championship game. You?
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No doubt. Neil, since James has already spoken enough about this particular game, let me just give you a couple of stats that I have and my thoughts on this game. Seattle has won 10 or more games in 7 of the past 8 seasons. Pete Carroll has led the Seahawks to the playoffs in 8 of his 10 seasons as head coach, which I didn't realize, quite honestly. I thought the Seahawks missed the playoffs more often than that under Pete Carroll. Mm-hmm. Philadelphia enters the playoffs having closed the regular season with 4 consecutive wins. That's tied for the NFC's second longest streak behind Green Bay's 5. The Eagles have won the NFC East for the second time in the past 3 seasons, albeit at 9-7. It was supposed to be 7-9. I mean, come on, James. In 2017, Philadelphia used a division title as a foundation to win Super Bowl 52 against my beloved Patriots. The Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson is the first quarterback in NFL history with a winning record in each of his first 8 seasons. Wilson and Eagles quarterback Carson Wentz ranked in the NFL's top 5 in touchdown passes this season. Russ had 31 and Wentz had 27. I've seen a lot of hype and build for a Philadelphia win in this game, Neil. And despite the Seahawks going on the road to the East Coast, it is a 4:40 kickoff, not a 1 o'clock kickoff. Plus, Doug Peterson is 0-3 versus the Seahawks Eagles are 0-2 versus 2-0 versus common opponents. Both teams played the Falcons and the Vikings. The Seahawks were successful both times, where the Eagles were not. This is my lock of the week. I'm taking the Seattle Seahawks. I don't think it's going to be a 1.5 point game. I think this will be closer to a double-digit type of game.
Well, yeah, you should really read the injury report, which I'm not going to go over because we went into it in detail on the preview battle. But you should really
you should do that because I'm going to cut that. Thank you. You gave me something to cut out. Excellent.
Injuries for the Philadelphia Eagles of note. Miles Sanders has an ankle injury. Zach Ertz, rib and backs. Avonte Maddox has a leg injury. Fletcher Cox, elbow. Sidney Jones, a leg injury. Derek Barnett, I'm not sure what his injury is. Lane Johnson, still nursing the ankle. Nelson Aguilar with the knee. Jalen Mills with a leg injury. On the Seahawks side.
So far, that looks great for a double-digit victory for the Seahawks.
Yeah. For the Seahawks, center Joey Hunt, fibula injury. Mike Iapati, neck injury. Condre Diggs, ankle. Jadeveon Clowney, core injury. Malik Turner in concussion protocol. Ethan Posick, the guard, has been placed on injury reserve. Michael Kendricks is out because of a torn ACL from Sunday night. Jerron Brown is doubtful with a knee sprain, and Dwayne Brown, I believe,
wrap up.
has a back and leg injury, I believe.
I think I saw Jadeveon Clowney as a go for this weekend, but anyway.
And you put Brandon Brooks on the IR during this week. Is that right? Brandon Brooks, is that right?
Yeah. Brandon Brooks has a dislocated shoulder.
Yeah, I'm still feeling rather confident about double-digit victory.
Yeah,
Neil is the only one of us that's not taking the Seahawks, though.
Yep, I think the Seahawks are pretty banged up, even though we all know the Eagles have been banged up in various departments, wide receiver, offensive line, the whole thing. It's been a bit of a shambles. But I saw an Eagles team turn it on last week. All right, it was against the lowly Giants, who can still run the ball, and they snuffed that out. I was hugely impressed with what they did as a team. I just felt there in that game that there was a bit of a spirit there with the Eagles that's going to drive them through this game. I think they will.
They wanted it more.
Stumble.
Oh, God.
I think Jay, that's the key here. They wanted it more, and they got it. And I think they'll get it this week. I love the lad Sanders, who I think Sanders was a backup at Penn State behind Saquon Barkley in his college career. Maybe had one year as a starter. I think he looks a very, very good runner and receiver. And I'm not sure, Jay, the Seattle Seahawks are actually all that good this year when it comes down to it. So, of course, we'll find out on Sunday. But I can see the Eagles sneaking out a win here. I'm very excited to see Wentz take what will be his first snaps in the playoffs. Am I right, James?
Yep.
And I thought there's a stat going around, and I'm sure you talked about it in your 350-minute discussion with Justin. But the stat there that he threw for first quarterback to throw for 4,000 plus yards and not have a wide receiver over 500 yards. Is that right?
Yeah.
I think that tells me that there's a lot of creativity happening in that offense. And if they get Ertz back, Ertz and Goddard, Sanders in the backfield, I think the Eagles will have too much for them. Fletcher Cox looked awesome last week. He hasn't had the greatest of seasons, Fletcher Cox, but he played well on Sunday night.
Three guys that you mentioned there, Neil, that I think are all important cogs that I don't think are going to play. Brandon Brooks, we know, isn't going to play.
Yeah, he's out.
Miles Sanders, James, what's the likelihood he's a go?
100%.
Ankle sprain. The problem is that they haven't said whether it's a high ankle sprain or just a standard ankle sprain. If it's high ankle, he's not going to play because no one actually plays the week after a high ankle sprain. If it's just the standard, usual ankle sprain, they'll tape it up, probably get a shot. He'll be limited in action. We do have Jordan Howard back. He'll be a full go, so that'll help. What's the next name?
I do think Boston Scott and Jordan Howard will do fine in the backfield, but without Miles Sanders, Absolutely. That's a big one. And Ertz is the other huge one, and the ribs.
I think I believe Ertz was held out precautionary for last week, provided that we'd win without him and we'd be playing this week.